Hey everybody, happy Thursday lunchtime tutorial stream. How's everybody doing out there wherever you are today? I hope everyone is having a fantastic Thursday. It's a blustery and rainy for Lori in Canada. Well, we have sunshine and 99 degrees here in Dallas. I think much as we were all sick of all the rain last week, or was that the week before? I think some of us will take some of it now. Because we're definitely into the, hey, must water the garden 2 times a day or everything's gonna die portion of summer, which is going to continue for approximately the next 5,000 years. So welcome to the lunchtime stream today. We've got a fun project for you today in honor of the fact that maybe this summer we can all travel to a beach once again. This is our beach bling knotted bracelet. There's actually some good techniques in here. You know, you're not obligated to wear this at the beach. I'm not forcing you to go to the beach to wear this. It's just a fun little knotted project, and it's got a macrame closure, which is a really nice technique to kind of have in your toolbox, especially if you are making jewelry to sell. If you're making jewelry to sell, it's nice to have the facility for some sort of adjustability in your jewelry for sale. Also, sometimes people don't like metal on their jewelry. I've had this come up a number of times over my career where people are allergic to metal, can't have metal clasps, things like that. Now I realize that my project sample and the sample I'm doing today have a metal bead on them, but you could very easily skip that metal bead and have a completely metal-free bracelet or necklace. You can also do this as a necklace. The only thing you need to remember if you do this as a necklace is you've got to leave enough extra cord that you can size it up big enough to go over your head. Otherwise you've made a crown, not a necklace. So let's talk tools and supplies for this afternoon's tutorial. We are going to need beads. Any beads that you want are good for this. Glass, crystal, stone. The main thing here is the hole. They've got to fit on whatever cord you have chosen to use for your project. So mine have a nice big hole. These are just some kind of smoky colored glass beads. I think I'm kind of feeling that colorway because of my outfit today and the kind of, you know, army greens and smoky colors. And then I'm going to use a CZ Pave bead for an accent. Once again, that's totally optional. You're going to need some sort of cord. I'm a huge fan of this Chinese knotting cord because it's really easy to work with and it's really easy to finish because it's synthetic, so you can melt it. But if you're not into synthetic cord, you could absolutely use something natural. You could use linen, you could use leather, you could use cotton, you know, any cord will work for this. There's really no limits as to what you can use for this. As far as tools go, you're going to need knotting tweezers. That's the really sharp, pointy, stabby ones. Don't stab yourself with your knotting tweezers. It's never a good time. If you're using the knotting cord, you're going to need a lighter. If you're using another type of cord that doesn't melt, you're going to want glue instead of a lighter. You're going to need some kind of a cutting device, scissors or a snips or wire cutters. Apparently in this instance, we're going to use metal shears. And then a macrame board is optional. It's not required, but it is going to help with our closure. So I'm going to start with my cord. I'm going to cut a couple of feet of cord. So when you're knotting, you need to remember that you're going to use up a lot more cord than you think you will, just because each knot actually takes up cord. So do I need a 24-inch bracelet? Of course not. But do I need extra cord to make sure that I have enough to knot my bracelet and still have enough for my finishing? That I absolutely do. So I'm starting with a 24-inch piece of my knotting cord. And I'm going to cut another piece in a little bit to use as my closure. I'm going to take my lighter and I'm just going to burn the end of my knotting cord to make it into a needle-like protuberance that I can use to string my beads. And then I'm going to make the first knot on my bracelet. It's going to be actually the ending knot. And I want to leave myself a solid amount of cord to use for my closure bit. So I'm going to go about 6 inches from the end of my cord. And again, this was a 2-foot piece of cord that I cut. And I'm just going to make a regular overhand knot. So nothing really fancy there, just a regular overhand knot, and tighten it up. I'm going to start stringing my beads. So I'm going to do a bead, and then I'm going to do a knot, and then a bead, and a knot, and a bead, and a knot, and a bead, and a knot, because that's how these things work. So I'm going to take one bead, and I'm going to thread that onto my cord. So there are lots of different ways that you can make a knot here. The main goal is you want an overhand knot, and you want to have it snugged right up against your bead there. As long as you can accomplish that, how you accomplish it really is immaterial. But typically the way that we will teach is we will teach to place your bead so that it is in front of the center of your palm of your non-dominant hand. Okay, so I'm righty. This is my left hand that my bead is hanging on. I'm going to wrap my cord around my hand, so I make an X at the top of my hand. And then on the back of my hand, I'm going to reach under, grab that long cord, and I'm going to pull it through. So that actually makes my knot. You can tell you've made your knot because you will have a twist now at the top of your hand instead of just an X. Then I'm going to grab my tweezers. Back on the front of my hand, I'm just going to go underneath the string that's wrapped around my fingers, and I'm going to grab right next to my bead with my tweezers, take my hand out, pull that knot as tight as I can on the tip of my tweezers, and then push down on the knot with my thumb, take my tweezers out, and then push that knot down towards my bead to tighten. You just want to make sure that you always tighten. By pushing that knot down, don't ever pull on the other side. That's going to move your knot farther away from your bead. Then I'm going to put on my next bead and repeat. So wherever I want to make the knot, that's what I want to have hanging around the middle of my palm. So as you get more and more beads here, you're going to progress downwards on this, and this part's going to get longer and longer. But you always want to focus on where you want your knot to be, as being right in the middle of your palm. So I'm going to wrap my cord around my palm, and then I'm going to go under, grab, pull through. The whole thing comes through. Once again, there's my knot. Grab my tweezers, under, grab, take my hand out, tighten my knot, like so, and then push on the knot with my thumb and push it down towards my bead to tighten. So now we're just going to continue, and I'm going to grab my ruler back because I want this bracelet, my closure, my macrame closure is going to add slightly less than an inch. So since I wear about a 7-inch bracelet, I want about 6 to 6 1/4 inches of beads. So once again, my third bead's on, around and through, grab, tighten, push. So since I have a center bead, that means I need to knot about 3, slightly less than 3 inches of beads before I put my center bead on. So I'm just going to check in with that every so often when it looks like I might be getting close, just because I don't want to make a bracelet that's too long. So again, my bead goes on, drop it over my palm, wrap it around, pull it through, under, grab. So it's important when I do this that I'm taking my hand out of the knot. The knot is staying on my tweezers. Okay, don't let that knot follow your hand off the tweezers because it will untie itself. I'm just going to pull and push. And I will say that the knotting with the Chinese knotting cord is a lot easier than knotting with the tiny little silks that we often use on pearls. So if you're trying to learn how to knot and you're having difficulties with it, this is actually a pretty good project to kind of practice on, because you can get the rhythm and the technique of the knotting on something that's significantly larger, easier to see, and easier to work with than the silk that we use for knotting pearls. Again, around, through, grab, tighten, push, and if your knotting is kind of crooked like this, that's actually good. That means you're doing a really good job of getting it tight, so you can go ahead and just pull it out a bit. And alright, I'm 2.5, so I need one more bead, I think, before I put on my center bead. So again, round and through, grab, pull, push. Okay, that's 3 inches, so now I'm going to put on my center bead. Again, using a special bead in the center of your piece is completely optional. It's not necessary. It's always fun when your bead is hollow. Trying to get your cord through it. You hold it up to the light, you're like, I see you, hole. I see that you go all the way through. And yet, when I I try and string something through you, you don't want to go. There we go. So now I'm just going to pull that to the middle. Same thing, around, through on the back, grab, pull, and push. And now I can just do, I did 3, 6, 8 beads on that side, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 beads on this side. So the second side is easier because you don't have to measure, you can just match what you did on the first side. So again, hang that over your hand, go around, through, under, grab, make sure you're always grabbing with the very tip of your tweezers, pull, and push. So now I'm just going to continue doing that until I have put on all 8 beads on my second side of my bracelet. So let's see, for all my fabricators, tonight's stream at 6 o'clock is our Torch Thursday stream. I'm going to be making loop-in-loop chain, which is really fun, also very time consuming. So I don't know how much chain we're actually going to get made on stream tonight, but we're going to hopefully do a really good just sort of exploration of the basic technique of making loop-in-loop chain, and maybe set the stage for some more complicated loop-and-loop chain tutorials in the future. And then of course tomorrow, Friday, is our Zoom Crafty Cocktail Hour. That means that tomorrow you will not find us on Facebook, you will not find us on Twitch, you will actually find us on Zoom with our Crafty Cocktail Hour. That's always loads of fun. I'm not going to be teaching a project, it's just going to be free crafting time where everyone can just sort of work on whatever they want to work on and chat and laugh, and like I said, always a fun time. Also, if you're looking for opinions from a group of individuals on, you know, designs or anything you may be working on, it's a really great time to get feedback. And of course, Heather and I will both be on for assistance. If anybody has any, you know, problems with either our projects or projects that they have, you know, been working on that are not our projects, we're happy to give you any help that we can possibly give you on any areas where you might be stuck. So it is free help time if you need it. That's going to be on Zoom tomorrow night. If you have Zoomed with us before, it's the same login credentials to get in. If you've not Zoomed with us before and you would like the meeting info, go ahead and email us beatingdreamsdallas@gmail.com, and I'm happy to send that info to you. All right, so I'm almost done. I'm on bead number 8, and then I'm going to close this puppy up with our macrame closure. This is my last knot. So you see, once you get used to it, it can go pretty quickly. Like, it seems like a lot of individual steps, but once you get the rhythm of it, it doesn't take very long at all. Like, my whole bracelet is knotted now, and it, you know, that took me a grand total of about, whatever, 10-15 minutes, including narration. I'm also looking forward to the tutorial tonight, Lori. Hopefully it will go well, and I will not screw anything up. Really? You never know. Okay, so now I'm going to take, and this is where if you have a macrame board, it can be useful. So I'm going to take my bracelet, and I'm going to take my 2 ends, and I'm going to overlap them like so. So I've got 2 parallel ends of cord, and I've got my bracelet kind of roughly, you know, in a circular shape. I'm going to take those 2 cord pieces, and I'm just going to clip them in the corner of my macrame board. So what I've got here is I've got my 2 parallel pieces of cord on the top of my macrame board, and I've got the rest of my bracelet underneath. So you have the whole bracelet's just kind of dangling underneath your macrame board, and then you've got these 2 pieces that are right up here on the top. And those are the pieces around which I'm going to knot to create our macrame closure. So for that, I'm going to need another piece of cord. I'm going to cut myself about 12 inches of cord. So that means all told, you're going to need about 3 feet of cord in order to do this project. Now I'm going to wind up cutting a little bit off, so there's a little bit of extra in that 3 feet, but really not a whole lot. 3 feet's a good length for this. So now I'm going to do just a basic square knot. So I'm going to start with my cord that I just cut, and I'm going to thread it underneath the 2 cords that are on top of my macrame board. Now I'm going to grab something to prop this up on so I don't have to hold it quite so close to the camera. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to make a square knot. So we've done this in several other tutorials, so hopefully this isn't completely unfamiliar, but if it is unfamiliar to you, this is a pretty common macrame knot, and we do have a couple of tutorials that focus exclusively on this knot. Obviously this is not one of them, we're just focusing on this as making a closure, but we have a couple of macrame bracelet tutorials out there that do focus exclusively on this. Okay, so I'm going to start with the cord that's on the right hand side of my center, and I'm just going to curve that over and cross it back over center. And if we were doing this in large scale, I would say we were making a backwards figure 4, because when we're doing it bigger, when we're doing a whole bracelet of this, that's kind of what it looks like. When you're doing it in micro like this, it's just kind of a loop. Now I'm going to take my cord that's on the left hand side of center, I'm going to cross it over the tail of my first cord, and then I'm going to cross it underneath all 3 of these cords that my fingernail is resting on here. So I'm going to go under all of these, and when it's little like this, like I said, it's a little difficult, so sometimes you need to employ some tools to help, but I'm going underneath all of those and I'm going up into that loop, and then I'm going to pull evenly on both of my cords until I get a nice tight knot. Now I'm going to start on the other side, and the way you can tell which side you need to start on is this little bump of cord right here. That's telling you what side you need to start on for your next knot. So this one's going to start on the left side. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to loop that across my center line. Then I'm going to take my other cord, I'm going to drop it over the tail of that cord, and then I'm going to pass it under everything, like so. And then I'm going to pull evenly on both cords until my square knot tightens down. And so I'm just going to continue to do this for about 4 or 5 knots. So it's kind of revelatory once you realize that this closure on bracelets of this type is a completely separate piece of cord. It is not attached in any way to the cords that are holding your beads. It's literally a tube of knotwork around the main cords of your bracelet, and I struggled with this for years trying to figure out how to do this before I finally figured out that it was a separate piece of cord. And of course, once you figure that out, it's, everything is gravy at that point. The heavier your beads are, the tighter you're going to need to make your knotwork in order for it to hold. Also, if you have heavy beads, you can make this closure longer. Okay, so I'm going to make mine like 6 or 7 knots, but if you make it longer, the longer you make this closure, the more tension it's going to hold, and the heavier beads it's going to be able to support. Now the converse of that is if you make your closure too long or too tight, it's going to be very difficult to manipulate, so I try and find a balance usually between it being really, really sturdy and it being easy to work. So how many knots is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, let's just do one more for good measure. Let's do 8 knots. All right, so that's my macrame closure. So what this does now is it creates tension so that I can make my bracelet smaller by pulling on my ends, or I can make it bigger by pulling on my beads, and there's enough tension in the closure that it will hold whatever size I adjust it to. So now I can get rid of some of this extra cord, and the 2 extra cords that I'm going to get rid of are these 2 right here. So these are the ends of the cord with which I was knotting my closure. Now if you find that it's confusing to you which cord is a which, you may want to consider, at least for your first couple of bracelets, using a different color for the closure. Since it's a completely separate piece of cord, you could very easily use a completely different color for your closure, and then it's going to be really obvious which cords you need to finish off and which cords you need to keep. But if you look at the end of your knotwork, you're going to have 2 cords that are coming out of your knot that are parallel to each other. Those are the cords that are holding your beads. Those are the cords you need to keep for now. And then there are 2 cords that are coming out of the knot kind of straight out to the sides. Those are the 2 that we want to finish. So since this is my Chinese knotting cord, I can finish this by melting it. So I'm going to go ahead and trim. And I'm going to trim that cord very, very short. Okay, I'm going to trim it down to like a 1/16 of an inch. And then I'm just going to take my lighter. I'm going to light my lighter and I'm going to hold it next to my cord. And what's going to happen is my cord's going to start to melt. And as soon as it melts down all the way to my knot, I'm just going to tap it with the lighter. And that's going to seal that cord against that knot. So see that little melted bit? That's a really nice secure finish on your cord. Hey Linda, that's okay. Actually, I'm the one who's strangely on time today, so you guys are not used to me actually starting at 12:15 instead of 12:30. This is not stretchy cord. This is just the Chinese knotting cord. So it's macrame cord, but it's got no stretch to it at all. And then we're going to go ahead and trim this one off. Again, short, like a 1/16 of an inch is all you need. If you make it too long, you're just going to wind up dripping melted polycord on your finger, which is not fun. And then we're just going to hold the flame next to the cord so that it melts. So you can see it start to melt. If it catches on fire, no big deal. And then when it gets down to your knot, just tap the cord with the lighter. Trust me, do it with the lighter, not your finger. And now I've created a nice neat end on my closure. I can go ahead and pull my two ends to make sure everything is even. And I just need to make sure that I leave myself enough cord here that I can get this open far enough to go over my hand. Because obviously right now, it's not going to go over my hand. Usually you need about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of opening room in order to get this over your hand. So I'm going to go with 1.5 inches. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm just going to find 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to just tie an overhand knot. Now if you wanted to, you could absolutely put another bead on the end of this, and I think I'm going to do that just for grins. So I'm going to do an overhand knot, make sure it's nice and tight, and then I'm going to thread on one of my beads, and then I'm going to tie another overhand knot. And I can, if I want to, because I want this knot to be right next to my bead, so if I want to, I can just reach through that knot with my tweezers and hold next to my bead. And that's going to help me tighten my knot right down where I need it to go. And then I'm going to repeat on my second side. I like to do this with my bracelet closed, that way I'm sure I'm, being accurate as far as making my two sides even. I'm going to tie an overhand knot. And, okay, so see that? Not even. Terrible job, Allison. Bad teacher, no cookie. There. So I just want the knots, to mostly line up. If they're a little inconsistent, I guarantee no one's going to get a ruler out on your bracelet, but still. You don't want one end to be hanging way further down than the other end. And then I've got a second knot, and I can use my tweezers if I want to pull that all the way down and push that right up against my bead. And then I can finish these ends by burning them. So now we're done with this cord, so now we can cut this off. And once again, I'm going to cut it off nice and close. Just melt that down, tap it against my knot. And same with the other one. I have the smell of burning polycord at lunchtime. I actually don't, it smells terrible. But it doesn't smell for very long. Once again, just melt that down and tap it. And voila, there we go. And that's it. That is our Beach Bling knotted bracelet. So once again, if you've been struggling with knotting, this is a really fun project to kind of get your feet wet in knotting in a way that's a little bit simpler. Working with the Chinese knotting cord instead of working with silk, you've got a lot fewer beads here than on a pearl necklace or even a pearl bracelet. And you get a really fun, kind of stackable, cool bracelet at the end of it. Ta-da! It's really nice with the ones I'm wearing today. Alright, so that's it for our lunchtime stream. Sorry, we're ending a little bit early because I started actually on time, and that project was pretty simple. But for anybody out there who doesn't know me, I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We're an actual brick and mortar retail bead store, and we are here on Lovers Lane in Dallas, Texas. We are open for business Monday through Saturday from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. If you're not local in Dallas, you can find us on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream 5 times a week with... Yay, Lori, I'm so glad. You can find us on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream 5 times a week with complimentary tutorials. We stream Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, because we are here in Dallas, Texas, in the USA, and we also stream a bonus tutorial Thursdays at noon. That is the tutorial that you just finished watching, and of course we are, thanks Sharon, nice to see you out there. And of course we also are on twitch.tv/Beading Dream and Facebook every Wednesday and every Saturday with live merchandise sales. So you can catch us next on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream this evening at 6 p.m. That's going to be our fabrication tutorial, Torch Thursday single loop-in-loop chain. That is going to be a really fun one tonight at 6 p.m. And then, of course, tomorrow night we have our Zoom Crafty Cocktail Hour. Again, if anybody wants the information for that Zoom and you don't already have it, please email us, beadingdreamsdallas@gmail.com. So I think that's going to be it for me and the lunchtime stream. So I'll see you all back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream tonight at 6 p.m. for that Torch Thursday tutorial. Everyone have a great afternoon, and we'll catch you later.